Just a quick shout out to our sponsors for today's podcast. Today we'll be drinking Marsden Lager, which is brewed locally from the Marsden Brewhouse at Marsden Park from Laundy Hotels. It's a really easy drinking, crisp lager that pairs really nicely with any occasion. And in this case, two mates talking about cinema. So shout out to Marsden. Can't wait to have a few.
We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes, it's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies close.
I am nothing! No!
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Get busy living. You get busy dying.
Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? My name's Michael. Welcome to CINEMATES. I'll be your host, and I'm so excited for this first ever podcast. We've got a lot to unpack, but first, let me introduce a very special guest, my mate, Pat. Pat, how you going?
Good, mate. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's good to be here.
No worries. Let's do it. Keen to have you on. Alrighty, so what is CINEMATES? What is cinemaze? Why do they sound the same? What's going on? Firstly, cinemaze is my YouTube channel where I do video essays on movie and TV show characters that you can check out on our Instagram at cinemaze_. Go have a look. They're really interesting. CINEMATES, on the other hand, is a podcast where a bunch of mates can chat about cinema. So whether you're a nerd like me or need recommendations of what to binge next, listen in as we unpack the latest and best TV shows and the characters that make them so good. So this is something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. Ever since I was a kid, I've always loved movies and TV shows, you know, starting off with all the Disney and Pixar GOAT movies, Toy Story, Lion King, you name it, I would have seen them all. You know, watching different DVDs at different people's houses, you know, they would have ones that you didn't have. And so you'd want to be like, oh, what's this? And you'd watch it. Going to my grandparents, they had Kill Bill, James Bond, Lord of the Rings, all those sorts of series that were a bit more mature, and that really got me just more and more passionate about it. And it even got to the point where sometimes I would want to stay home sick and just smash through movies all day. So absolutely loved movies ever since I was a kid. And, you know, that passion grew more and more as I've become older and just developed that. So I think nowadays as well, streaming services have made it more accessible for everyone to really watch basically anything. There's so much content out there, and it's almost hard to know what to watch.
Yeah.
So, you know, friends often ask me for recommendations all the time. And when we're at the pub having some drinks, we'd all talk about, you know, recent seasons of TV shows and new movies that we'd seen. So I thought, why not combine the two? Mates talking about cinema over some drinks and start a podcast. So here we are. We've got some drinks, courtesy of Marsden. Let's get into it. So the way that these podcasts will be run is that each episode will focus on one movie or TV show. We'll break down the plot, the characters, all the best parts, and everything in between. And of course, there may be some spoilers. So just be aware of that before listening. Having different mates and guests on the show, everyone has different tastes and preferences with cinema, I think. So I want to start these podcasts with a bit of questions and a bit of a question game almost for each guest. So we're going to do a few sort of divisive questions about different movies and TV shows, and then we'll get into some more deeper ones. So we'll kick it off, Pat. So first question.
Hit me.
And this is a bit of a big one that could really change our friendship here.
Yeah, divide the viewers.
So first one, Marvel or DC Comics?
It's got to be Marvel, like, surely. Like, I think the cinematography and, you know, a lot of the stories and the writing from there, like Stan Lee, his legacy has, you know, absolutely changed cinematography for the present and future. You know, Black Panther, I think, was an absolute standout for me in that genre, or I guess, you know, that, you know, chapter of Marvel.
For sure.
Yeah, it's got to be Marvel any day of the week.
100%. Could not agree more. Although there are some good DC comic movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're
Shout out
starting
to DC,
they're starting to create some interesting projects.
They're making waves. Yeah,
They are.
they're good.
Next question: UK office or US office?
I never need to think about this. Hey?
Okay, next question.
US, obviously, by far and away the most easily digestible TV show ever.
100%. How many times do you reckon you would have binged The Office?
It's bad, man. It's really bad. 9 seasons. I reckon I've seen them back to front maybe 5 times.
100%. It's so good. Next question: Simpsons or Family Guy?
Simpsons. Matt Groening till I die.
Agreed. And next, Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Okay, hot take here, and you can kick me off the podcast if you want.
Okay, let's hear it.
I haven't seen Harry Potter.
What? You're kidding.
I'm not kidding.
Oh my God.
I swear to God. Well, no, I started watching in lockdown, but I was like obviously very delayed. But Lord of the Rings is I think I was hooked on that as a kid, and
Yeah.
Harry Potter has never got around to it until now. So.
Oh, man. I'm that grinds my
Questioning my
gears.
legitimacy.
Might kick you off the podcast.
Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. I do think you really need to see Harry Potter.
Yeah,
It's really good. There could be some listeners who really hate you right now.
Yeah, there will be. There will be, I'm sure.
Okay, next question. Friends or How I Met Your Mother?
Well, I thought about this as well, but I feel like the question should be Friends or Seinfeld. And if that was the question, it would be Seinfeld. But then also Friends or How I Met Your Mother, How I Met Your Mother. And,
Really?
Yeah. And I haven't watched, I watched because I'm such
Dribs and drabs.
because I'm such a Seinfeld head. I was I've never gotten around to watching it. I just don't understand the dynamic. It's if you take away the laugh track from the TV episodes, it's not funny.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah. I think as well, Friends has this massive cult following.
True.
It is really good, and it probably
It is good, yeah.
But I think I agree. I think Seinfeld really kick-started the whole Friends sitcom sort of vibe.
Yeah, I feel like Seinfeld's humor as well is obviously, I don't know, he's got a real wholesome approach to just the different nuances of the trivial things of life. He's just really good at breaking that down. It's not dirty, it's not unsavory, it's good.
Exactly.
It's a great way of breaking down humor and delivering it to consumers, I guess.
100%. Next question, we're going to get into some deeper ones.
Yeah.
Most memorable movie that you saw in cinemas? In the theaters.
God, that's a tough one. I honestly would say, okay, yeah, so I saw a rerun of Black Panther post Chadwick Boseman dying with my little brother, who we go to the movies with, and see every Marvel movie as well. So
Where'd you go?
Macquarie.
Okay.
Obviously.
Event cinemas.
You only see movies in one place.
That's it, yeah.
And yeah, we saw that after Chadwick passed away, and that was very emotional because we obviously big fans of Marvel and all their work. So seeing that was great. That was really good. Yeah.
Awesome. No, I love that. Next question. Fastest TV show binge.
You know about this as well, but we're going to getting into sex education today, but I literally watched season 3 in a night.
How many?
Not kidding.
Tell the listeners how many episodes there are and how long each episode is.
God, what is it? 9 episodes or 10 episodes?
I think, 9 or 10.
And they're 45 to 53 minutes, I think, a piece.
Yeah.
And
memorized it.
Yeah. Not that I'm counting. And then I finished it in a night. I'm shameful to say, but yeah, it was a big night.
Oh, that's massive, and I think it's also deserving. So I think that's really.
Absolutely. I was hooked. That speaks to the show.
It speaks to the show. Speaks to this episode. We're going to absolutely unpack why Pat did that. But yeah, we'll get into that later into the episode. Yeah. So, last 2 questions. A movie that you think everyone needs to see?
I was always hooked on 90s movies growing up, just because my parents are quite young, and that was quite an informative kind of thing for me. So I was torn between, obviously, as cliche as it sounds, this is a really tough question because I had 3. I had Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller, and then only recently did I watch Pursuit of Happiness.
Wow. Okay.
Literally, I think I told you about it maybe a month ago or something in lockdown.
Yeah.
And honestly, that movie is so beautiful.
Oh, it's great.
It's first of all, father and son relationship in both real life and in film. Completely I don't know, it's
such
Yeah.
an underdog story, like
Exactly,
making
bro.
it
When he
from the
gets
bottom.
spoilers. When he gets that job at the end, like, oh my god, Waterworks Central, man,
iconic
oh my
scene
God,
when he
yeah.
runs onto the street.
Oh, he
Insane.
starts lifting his hands like Rocky. Like, wow,
So good.
That's a flick that I think everyone should see.
Perfect.
For sure.
Good answer. Last question. TV show that you're watching at the moment.
Succession.
Nice.
Succession on Binge
It's really
is probably by far and away probably the best drama series one of the best I've ever watched.
It's
Obviously
phenomenal.
loosely based around the Murdochs and the progression of Fox Media, and obviously they're like different conglomerates. It's an incredibly interesting watch, and just to see the power struggle between, you know, a family kind of business relationship
Yeah.
is really interesting.
It's really good. Definitely one to watch.
Yeah.
As you would have seen in the title, we're going to be breaking down the Netflix original series Sex Education. And more specifically, we're going to be cracking open season 3, which recently came out. It was absolutely, by far, the best season of the show. Personally, I think, like, wow, it was great. And I think that a lot of people out there can definitely attest to that. So to our listeners out there who haven't seen Sex Education or haven't seen season 3 yet, Pat, what would you say about the show in 1 to 2 sentences?
It's tough, hey? Like, it's like...
Or better question, why did you binge it in one night?
Don't judge me like that, bro. No, well, it's really tough. Like, I just think, like, Sex Education is such a biopic of, like, obviously, like, transgressional growth for both adolescents and, you know, young people in their 20s and, like, discovering themselves emotionally. And then also, like, just, like, the kind of intertwining webs of, like, different relationships that you see, like, kind of come from, you know, starting to make your own decisions. Like, obviously I'm going so over, like, what one sentence is. And, like, it speaks to the show again.
Exactly.
You know, it's just, like, it is. It's so complex, but it's great.
It's great. I think as well, you know, we're obviously young adults, and I think it's really easy to resonate with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you haven't seen it, I think you really need to. I can't really remember how good season 1 was, but, you know, we've come this far.
It's been a blur.
We've come this far. So definitely give it a watch. Try an episode. If it's not good, you don't like it, come back to us, tell us, and we'll never speak to you again. So, okay, let's get into it. All right. So we've got some takes about sex education. And first thing we thought, you know, the show really has firstly, the writing of the show is awesome. There's so many different characters. There's obviously the main character, Otis, as well as Maeve and some of the others. But what we found was that the characters are all quite integrated. And I think that really speaks to the show. You know, there's a bit of what we call a web of characters. And it's really refreshing, like, the stories and the arcs just ease into each other. Even the camera, like, it might be following one character and then it'll go straight on to the next one without cutting. So we're going to be talking about the characters in that sense because they're all connected, and we're going to be breaking down what we thought of the main characters because there's so much to get through. So first one, it would be rude not to start with Otis, the main character. You know, we had a bit of a question for ourselves that we'll answer later in the show.
Yeah.
Is Otis the villain of season 3? Or is someone else the villain? Who are the heroes and villains of season 3? So we're going to
break it down.
We're going to be breaking it down. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Otis first. So I think that he really grew this season.
Yeah.
I think that you know, there was a lot that kind of maybe at the start you didn't really like him for. He's being a bit childish about certain things. So what do you think were the key kind of stages of development for Otis?
Well, I feel like it literally opens in the first 30 seconds. Like I feel like we've said it before, but obviously spoilers ahead. But like, so like the season obviously opens with like Ruby and Otis like in a car together, like in the, like, you know, in their little spot. But, like, I feel like that just straight away I was like, oh my God, Otis, like I'm rooting for you already. Like I love you. Like keep like you know, he's just like bouncing around, like just trying to find himself.
He's got his moustache.
Exactly. He's got his moustache now. The man's grown. You know, his hormones are through the roof.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, that it speaks to, you know, obviously what Otis's mindset is for the season.
For sure.
And what that is like, just like carefree. I'm not going to leave my demons I'm not going to let my demons haunt me anymore in terms of, like, you know, obviously expressing his emotions for Maeve, who obviously thought neglected him, but that was due to fucking
other things that we'll get into later.
Yeah, that we'll get into. And, you know, he's got his, like, mindset in the right place. And, like, you know, from the outset, we're like, yeah, Otis is going to have a good season.
100%. Yeah. And I think as well, like, we'll obviously get into the Ruby Maeve dynamic. Is it Team Ruby or is it Team Maeve?
Yeah.
Because that's a bit of a divisive one. But yeah, I think, you know, he really has grown a lot since season 1. There were some stages where he was being a bit childish. He's being quite rude to his mum.
Yeah.
Which we don't respect.
No, we're a Jean stan here. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. And she was going through a tough time. I think he was coming to terms with being an only child. Him and Ola weren't really getting along. Yeah. But, you know, by the end of the season, you know, he's warming up to Jakob, his sort of stepfather, we'll call him. And, yeah, I think he grew quite a lot. So we'll obviously touch on him with his relationships with other people. But I think his vulnerability really came out. You know, he got rejected in previous seasons. You know, he was having to kind of also find himself. But I think one thing that was really interesting was that we didn't just get Otis and Maeve falling in love on a silver platter. You know, like, you obviously...
I could not agree more.
Yeah, like, they obviously could have just spoon-fed us and you could have predicted that, but...
As much as I want it, like, I'm, like, literally, like, holding my pillow over my head at night, like, please, just, like, please, like, let this happen, like, to the writers, like, sending me insane, but it's, like, the most natural progression of a relationship I've seen in the show, and it's beautiful. Like, it just, like...
It's real.
It's real. It's so wholesome, and just, like, you know, obviously good things take time, and, like, it's the writers have done such an incredible job at you know, expressing how, like, a young adolescent relationship goes, and like, you know, it's great to see the progression of obviously Maeve and Otis, but like you said, it's not going to be handed to us on a silver platter, and there's obviously going to be some hurdles along the way, and they've killed it so far.
Yeah, big things for Otis in season 4. We'll get into that later.
Hot takes coming.
They're coming. Let's dive into the Jackson and Cal dynamic. So,
yeah, of course.
Jackson obviously relates to Otis.
I'm just going to crack another Marsden.
Oh, they're great. Shout out to Marsden. Cal and Jackson, they had an interesting dynamic, but let's talk about Jackson first. So Jackson, obviously he previously went out with Maeve. That relationship ended. He had quite a lot of sort of pressure and anxiety around having to be head boy, you know, his swimming. Athlete, but this season, athlete, all those sorts of pressures, and it really came up. You know, his parents were pushing him quite a lot. But I think he really grew in this season, and he could find himself. So, you know, he obviously was removed of his head boy responsibilities.
I feel like the new principal, as much as, like, you know, the viewers find it, you know, quite hard to rub up against her, it helped in the Jackson, like, plot line, because I feel like for the first time ever, Jackson actually had, you know, he's not had hot air up his ass, like, the whole a whole season, like,
and he could be himself.
Exactly, yeah.
He really found himself. Like, he's not worried about the whole, you know, being popular, being head boy, sport, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
the new principal allowed him to get his walls down and actually find his inner self.
Yeah, 100%. And, like, he, you know, is good mates with Vivian, and then he met Cal. So Cal is a new person in the season, and I think Cal's a really interesting character that they've brought on. So Cal is obviously of non-binary gender, and they're finding themselves as well. So I think it really shed a light on, you know, non-binary relationships with obviously Cal and Jackson, kind of exploring that, as well as almost the experience of non-binary people. So I think the show really, you know, showed how much they really can go through, and the sort of troubles and adversity that can come with, being non-binary, exploring your own gender and sexuality, it's obviously a very personal and tough experience, but I thought that through Cal, it was really interesting to be able to see that. And in saying that, Jackson and Cal, they become really good friends. Cal brings out this new side of Jackson,
I thought it was as well, like you said, I thought it was so refreshing to just see, obviously it was kind of out of nowhere, but it was so refreshing to see the Cal character get introduced to the show. And I thought that it was quite interesting how they expressed Jackson's curiosity for their comfort. And I thought that expressed as well the societal issues that they go against as well.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's obviously that real kind of challenge that, everyday things you would not usually kind of think about, but
that's something that they have to go through.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think as well, the fact that the show made it more normal is something that's really good.
Yeah.
And equally as well, I think that, you obviously hope that Jackson's able to find someone that he's truly likes. And he did really like Cal. And that obviously didn't end the way that you'd think. Cal and Jackson, they were kind of getting close with each other at Cal's house.
Still struggling, yeah.
Yeah, and Jackson went to touch their breast.
Yeah.
And he kind of was still thinking that they were a girl, and that obviously was very upsetting.
Yeah, he's clouded. He's clouded by
his previous sort of conception.
And it's a small town. Moordale is a small town. You forget that as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's in the light of a big show, but you have to take a step back and be Moordale. Imagine a non-binary person being introduced to such a small town and then having feelings for them. Wow. Imagine that progression and how, I guess, unexpected that would be.
And he's also learning and understanding things as well. So, they obviously ended the season as more friends, but we'll see what happens with them. So
I'm excited. I'm actually very excited for that plot line.
Yeah,
season 4.
And I think that was really refreshing. And Jackson really grew, and Cal was a great addition.
Great
to the
from
show.
Netflix as well, who are notoriously not really that progressive as well. In terms of that kind of character. So it was good.
It was really good.
Yeah, really good.
Let's go into another big character. So Eric. Man, let's get into Eric.
Let's not.
No, Eric had some big moves in this season. So first of all, let's break down his relationship with Adam. So previously, Adam was obviously the big sort of school bully, went out with Amy, and now he's come to realize a bit more about his sexuality, and him and Eric form a bit of a relationship in this season. So what did you think about that dynamic?
Well, obviously coming from, I guess, the back end of season 2 where they were quite comfortable together, seeing how their relationship has progressed from Adam being trying to dismiss, I guess, being dismissive of, obviously his sexuality and also being very closeted in the way he, discusses Eric. I feel like it was refreshing to see Adam open up and obviously not having the pressure of his dad in the picture anymore.
Yeah.
It was incredible for him to actually just start expressing his feelings and, writing poetry for him.
Yeah, literally.
I almost fucking cried when that happened. I was like, oh my God, Adam, go man.
100%.
You're doing so well. And then Eric's such a, he's such a double-sided, sword, I guess. One moment you love him for, loving Adam, and then the next moment it's such a wild ride of, I guess, finding out who Eric actually is.
100%. And I think in previous seasons, obviously Adam was still coming to terms, and we'll talk about Adam, but in a bit more in a second.
Yeah.
But I think Adam with Eric, they actually seemed to get along really well and seemed like they were forming a good relationship.
Yeah.
But then comes the period where Eric and his family go to Nigeria for a wedding.
Oh my God.
Let's get into it.
God.
So firstly, Eric and his mum both had to kind of almost hide themselves with their grandma.
Yeah.
So in terms of his mum had to kind of say that her husband was really successful and having to almost put on this mask. And equally as well, Eric has to hide his sexuality to his grandma, and that was something that he didn't want to do and was really upset him.
Yeah.
And then later that night after the wedding, he meets a Nigerian man, and obviously it's illegal to be homosexual in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But he meets another homosexual.
God, I'm literally getting PTSD.
And they go out clubbing. And to be fair, when Eric went in the like sort of taxi or Uber, I thought that they really teased it.
Yeah.
That the guy was going to almost like kidnap Eric.
Yeah.
Did you feel that?
I felt that as well.
Yeah.
100%.
But I think he was just hiding,
like it speaks to the director and the cinematography as well, like being in some cab, like, in the middle of Nigeria in an unknown place. Like, I honestly thought like it was game over.
I thought something was going to happen.
I feel like the viewers like kind of were already accustomed to that kind of thing happening.
Yeah.
From what happened in Moordale with Eric. When he was, I think was it Halloween or it was something else? Oh no, it was like Pride Night or
was
something.
Was he beaten up by
Adam?
Adam?
No, not Adam. He was beaten
Someone
up
else.
by just some like random like people passing.
Yeah.
And so, the viewers were obviously accustomed to that. And I feel like going into that scene, everyone was like, oh my God, no, Eric, please, like, be safe. And like
100%.
And then it was incredible to just see like some vibrant community of like people from the LGBTQI, community just like open up the doors to, a newcomer in Nigeria. And
definitely
that was incredible. And also like the scene in there as well gave me like Euphoria vibes,
when he gets with the guy.
No, just like the club, like, it was like
100%.
really like euphoric.
100%. And like, so Eric obviously gets with the guy. They don't sleep with each other, but he's obviously cheated on Adam.
Yeah, fuck.
So, I think that Eric really grew as a character, but this sort of little affair really created a bit of a divide. So let's get into Adam. So Adam's obviously, still coming to terms with his sexuality. He's hiding it from his mum. His dad's out of the house. And in terms of his relationship with his dad, he still kind of has this thing like he can't fail and he can't not be this like masculine man.
Yeah.
He can't let himself cry. And he doesn't know really what he's good at. So let's talk about the Eric and Adam relationship. How did you think that ended? Did you think it was fair on Adam? Do you think it was, they're obviously at different points in finding their sexuality. And, Eric obviously has been out of the closet for a while. Adam's only still coming to terms. What do you think about that?
Well, no, I'll say this first and foremost. When Adam and Eric were on that bridge and Adam was like holding his bike and then he like tossed it away when he found out about it, like Eric, I was like bawling my eyes out.
Oh,
and
100%.
Keep in mind, this is like 6 hours into my binge and I'm like at 1 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
Like there was not a dry eye in the room, and by that I mean just me. So,
but then I thought it was the most sad when Adam like forced himself not to cry just because it's been forced into him.
Yeah, I know,
and it's like, so sad.
And obviously, and you touched on it as well. Like coming from like, I feel like when military school gets put on the table, like it's like, what kind of household are you living in? This isn't healthy.
Yeah,
and it speaks to like obviously the mum and dad kind of, relationship there as well. But it was so good to see Adam just kind of like it was weird, like the progression by the mum and also Adam at the same time. They both kind of related, like, they were both progressing at the same time, and then when they were progressing the dad wasn't, and I love to see that.
100%. Let's get into Adam's dad. In my opinion, I thought one of the best scenes in the season was when Adam's dad stood up to his brother.
Yeah.
He, he was learning to cook to like impress his wife and win her back, or ex-wife. They're separated. And he stands up to his brother, who is such a dick. And they show this awesome. He sucks. They show this awesome scene where, from Adam's dad's childhood, where the dad said like boys don't cry, and I think that really showed why Adam and Adam's dad are so stiff and so
absolutely
putting on this front of being like this man who can't be vulnerable. But I think when he stood up to his brother and admitted all his sort of mistakes to his wife and stood up for what he wanted to become, I thought that was awesome. I thought that was such a good scene. What did you think of Adam's dad?
Well, no, I thought, like, obviously Adam's dad's such a conflicting character because he's obviously they're trying to make him the antagonist, and it doesn't work because I just love him. Like, he's like so good, and I think that, like, obviously, like, his, like, you know, relationship with Adam is not good at all.
Yeah.
And the way that he treats him. But you can obviously see in season 3 that that's been instilled from such a young age. Like you said, like that scene where it cuts back and you see like why he's so like kind of, he's got all these like demons in the closet. Like it's like really bad. But and, like, I feel like for the first time, Adam's dad, like Adam, is starting to find himself.
For sure. Exactly. Let's go on to Jakob and Jean, Otis's mum. I thought that Jakob, like, in previous seasons,
How good's Jakob?
He's great. He's phenomenal. In previous seasons, he didn't really have much about him. He was this kind of, like, mysterious...
Yeah.
Is he Icelandic?
He was, like, illustrious kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah, big, like, Icelandic, like, he's like a Viking.
Yeah, literally. But he didn't really have much substance in the previous seasons other than that. But... then we get this awesome scene where, you know, Jean and Jakob had been doing some counselling because obviously Jean was pregnant with their supposed child, which we'll get into later.
What about the Jean, like, wraparound in the car?
What was that?
You know, when she was, like, coming up the driveway to, like, kind of tell him the news and, like, she was, like, hiding the baby.
Oh,
yeah. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah. She, like, couldn't tell him for ages.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that he was like this chill dude. But then there's this awesome scene where he's speaking with the counselor on his own. And it turns out that his deceased wife, who had cancer, she'd actually cheated on him just before.
Yeah.
And so he could never really like be angry about it because he was cheated on and then she had cancer and he had to just nurture her and then she passed away.
Yeah.
So I thought that made his character... like next level. I think it gave him depth.
Yeah, it did. Well, I think the depth that like Jakob always gives is the fact that he's so emotionally vulnerable. And like for the first time in the show, you kind of understand, like when Jakob was introduced, he was so just upfront and like so just like, you know, vulnerable and, you know, willing to like just say what was on his mind.
Yeah.
Even Jean was taken back and she's a sex therapist.
Yeah, exactly.
And she like, he was like, I want you. And it was like, she was like, oh, what? Like, because obviously men don't operate like that.
Yeah.
But like, but it was so good. I love Jakob. Like
he's great.
And obviously like with the wife and the therapist scene, like incredible, so great.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
100%. We'll quickly touch on Jean, Otis's mum. I thought that she didn't really have much development, but, you know, obviously she was a big part of the plot, being pregnant, gets to the end and there's complications. We're not sure if she's going to die or not because she had a big bleed. But I thought that at the very end, it was very interesting to see that the DNA test had come back.
Man, oh my God.
We don't know what's going to happen, but she said, oh shit. So
yeah, I know. Oh,
it's suspected
God.
that
I'm literally on a cliffhanger right now. I can't sleep at night. It's been 6 months since I watched this show and I'm like literally up at night looking at my ceiling like,
so big things coming there. But let's get into the real
my God.
crux of the show. So Team Ruby or Team Maeve, what do you think?
Dude, Ruby, come on. Like, I love Maeve with all my heart, but Ruby is just like...
She's got...
Dude, like seeing her progress, seeing her open with herself, like taking a step away from the politics of like being in like, you know, a school where there's just like hierarchical...
Cool people,
I don't know.
Hierarchical.
You know, set up. And like, it's so refreshing to see her just like, you know, put that kind of politics aside and, you know, at the forefront, just put her emotions and her family and Otis. Like, incredible.
I thought she was great. She, you know, they obviously start as this kind of like summer fling.
Yeah.
But then it gets more and more like, she obviously takes Otis to her house, which she never does. Not even for her like two mates out of their little posse. They're called like the Untouchables or something.
The Untouchables, yeah.
And that was a huge step for her. She's obviously, you know, got some insecurities about her living situation and her family. Has to put on this like big, like glamorous front. But I thought that she really opened up. He met her father who has like chronic pain.
Yeah.
And then later that night, she calls Otis, and my heart was just like so warm because she said that she
Seeing
loved
her look at the ceiling and like literally like on her bed lying down,
Smiling.
just like smiling. Oh my god! Like for the first time, just seeing Ruby happy and like genuinely happy. Like
I think that was her first like genuine feeling.
I know, right? Like just like seeing her like actually break down her walls and like all these barriers are let down. Like I think Ruby's like plotline has been so conflicting in the sense that, obviously coming from such an antagonist standpoint in like the school setting to actually like seeing her take a step out of that and be emotionally vulnerable and, express her feelings for once. Like, God.
Was awesome.
And then when it happened, it's like, no, it's not going on.
Yeah.
Oh.
And she said, "I love you," and Otis said, "That's nice," and that killed me.
Yeah. We're wiping away the tears. We're wiping away the tears.
Oh man, it was so bad. But I think maybe they can be friends in future. But I really was rooting for that.
Well, you know what? Don't count it out. There's a hot take here. Do not count Ruby and Otis out. Ruby,
I hope so.
Ruby likes toxic shit. She will come back 100%.
Maybe. I really hope so. But now that we're talking about Otis's sort of love life, let's talk about Maeve. She's obviously...
The web of Otis comes back.
It comes back. Let's talk about Maeve. She's obviously a massive character in the show. We love her. Her plight to actually find happiness continued.
Yeah.
She's dealing with the drama of having previously called the police on her mum, who's struggling with drug addiction. Now we're at the stage where she's living on her own. Her little sister is being cared for with her foster mum called Anna.
Anna's a goat as well.
She's so nice.
Yeah,
what did you
nice.
think of Maeve's journey? Let's talk about firstly the relationship with Otis.
Yeah.
Actually, no, let's talk about the relationship with her mum and Anna just quickly. So... obviously the mum comes back into the picture and it ends on quite a sad note with the mum sort of almost realizing that she's unfit to care for.
Very symbolic, yeah.
Yeah, unfit to care for Maeve and the other daughter. And Maeve was kind of she had her walls up. She wasn't, Anna was so nice, really caring. And it took the whole season to realize that Anna was like a really good motherly figure.
Yeah.
And also being able to get help off her friends like Amy.
Yeah.
She shut down. They had a bit of a fight. What did you think about that with Maeve?
I thought that like Maeve always knew that. And like the thing about Maeve's character is she seeks consistency. And like I think obviously the mum doesn't give it to her. Like it's like so hard for her to, find a consistent relationship at all. Like, and she struggles to find that. And that's the beauty of Maeve's character is that she bounces around.
Yeah.
And the harsh reality of Maeve's mum is that love isn't going to get there. Like it's not going to be the stable thing that she's seeking. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, like it's a great plot line. And, Maeve's mum, sailing off into the sunset is a really symbolic and beautiful parting of ways as well.
100%.
So, yeah.
And she also gets Maeve the money to go overseas.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
That was so great. But we'll see what happens there. Who knows?
Yeah.
With that.
So Maeve's obviously moving over to the US because she got into a gifted, talented educational program.
Yeah.
Previously, her neighbor Isaac had deleted the voicemail where Otis had confessed his love to Maeve.
I think we both wanted to I don't know, cry with each other when that happened.
Yeah. And so now we obviously get to season 3. Let's talk about her and Otis. So for most of the season, she didn't even know that he said those things.
So I think what sums up, and like this is cliche, whatever, but I think John Green has a quote and it's, you accept the love you think you deserve. And I feel like Michael and I were talking like this week, just like preparing for the podcast, and we thought, oh my God, like that sums Maeve's character up to a fucking T. Like it sums her up so well. And I think that her relationship with Otis is like just so interesting in terms of it's natural. We touched on that before.
So
it's
natural.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's progressive. It's everything you want it to be. Like, it's not some like fluffed up kind of relationship that Netflix would usually give you.
It's very real.
Yeah.
It's something to relate to.
I love what you said before as well about they're not going to give it to you on a silver platter.
Yeah.
It's so true.
It's so true. And it takes us, multiple episodes to get there. She obviously gets very intimate with Isaac even.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
That was a really interesting scene as well. Like, but yeah, like, as much as I hate Isaac, like, I feel like you started to sympathize with him purely because Maeve's such like a, conflicting character. And like, when she started being like, physical with him, it was like, oh, okay, this is real.
Yeah. And then obviously that doesn't end up working out. And that's pretty crushing. I think that Isaac, I actually got around him this season,
Same, as much as I hate to say it. I did as well.
So that's a sad ending for him, but we'll see what happens there. And I think that obviously a big sort of climax of the show, Maeve and Otis get stuck in France.
The gas station.
And they finally get together and express themselves to each other. What a scene.
When the voicemail like saga, when that like gets like, down to a T, and they say like, when Otis accuses her of like, obviously like scening him pretty much, like,
yeah,
when he's sitting on top of that petrol pump, it's like, oh my God, the cinematography is incredible in that scene.
It's so good.
The setting is perfect. Everything was like so well orchestrated. It was incredible.
Oh, it's
and
phenomenal.
like, it just left you feeling like an absolute punch in the stomach. Like, I had butterflies for the next 5 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like, both of them were so confused, and there was just utter confusion for both the viewers and the character. It was incredible.
100%. So it was like 2 a.m. when you got to that point.
No, we're looking at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. Yeah, for sure.
So just some final notes. I thought as well, Lily, she has a pretty interesting arc. I think.
I agree.
It really showed, a teenager, young adult being sort of almost forced to grow out of their interests. So she's obviously really keen in like fictional alien sort of writing. She gets a lot of hate for it. I'll tell you what was sad. It was sad when the school finally like revolted and like
and
had
she
that whole
started like dressing different, and
she was dressing different. They had that whole like sexual protest, and the school like broke free of the principal's reins and stuff, and she wasn't there to be a part of that. So Lily had a really interesting arc.
I agree. I completely agree. I think Lily's character is very interesting, and I feel like the writers of the show, she's probably one of the more prominent figures in the show, one could argue as well. Like, in terms of screen time, she gets a lot of it.
Yeah.
And at one point I was confused. I was like, is this going to be like more of a story than it is? Or and
that's interesting.
Yeah. So I feel like next season, watch this space, Lily is going to dominate, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. She's going to find someone that appeals to her like kind of love interest. And it'll be great. It'll be really good.
You don't think her and Ola will work out?
No, I don't think so. Hot take. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll come to that.
Yeah.
Last note on the show. So the show ends with the school's supposed investors just pulling their money.
What a joke.
I feel like the writers were just like, oh, okay, so how are we going to like get rid of the school?
Twiddling their thumbs.
So there's these investors, right? And they got some money. I think that was a bit of
We're literally discussing like how much of a joke like just like that whole scene is. Like, you can imagine the writers just twiddling their thumbs, like being like, okay, we got some space. Obviously we love the show, but it's like we wanted to touch on it purely because it is just so trivial. Like,
and maybe like obviously in Australia, I don't think that school systems have investors. Could be very wrong, but
I just thought if I'm wrong.
I just thought it was a bit of a random. Like,
no, it was a weak.
Agree. It was a weak like.
Yeah, it was mid.
Stepping stone.
It was mid.
Anyway, so give us your thoughts on the whole school investor things at Moordale.
Yeah, we'll put a poll up whether it's pointless or not.
Now, in saying all of that, who do you think the hero was of the season?
All right.
One sentence.
Otis.
Yeah.
Straight up. Being vulnerable with himself, making choices for himself.
Nearly losing his mum.
Healthy relationship with Ola, Jakob. His mum towards the end. Maeve. I love
Maeve leaving him.
Except I hate him for Ruby, but anyway, we can
move past that.
I'll begin to sleep at night.
If he gets back together with her in season 4.
Watch your space, please.
Okay, villain. Who's the villain?
Eric. I think Eric is the villain purely because he was really conflicted with both Otis and Adam. Like, Adam's a whole nother subject, but I feel like he was really manipulative as well to his family, to Adam. And yeah, I just like, obviously I love the character progression, but yeah, it's got to be Eric.
Yeah. He obviously, I thought definitely agree on the hero front with Otis. And I think Eric, I do agree, but I think at the same time they're also on different paths. So it was almost fair that they kind of weren't going to be together. But I think in terms of a villain, you can't go past the school principal.
Yeah, true.
And she's obviously going through a tough journey herself, having to have like IVF treatment and that sort of thing. But I think, classic villain, she obviously got her medicine at the end.
Yeah.
But definitely agree. She's
in sex education fashion, they make the villain
the principal.
Right when you start hating someone, they'll go, "Oh no, she's actually emotionally vulnerable and she has problems like everyone else." You're like, "No,
you bastard!"
Yeah, I start liking her.
Yeah,
no,
legit. So we've actually done, as we've kind of mentioned throughout the show, we've got some season 4 predictions. So let us know what you think, but we're going to go through some of the sort of top predictions that we have and that we found on Reddit in the sex education threads.
Yeah, that is an absolute wormhole. I do not recommend.
It is a wormhole. You'll lose a whole day there.
Yeah.
And we're going to go through just a few of them, and we're going to talk about the likelihood of them out of 10. So first thing is...
quick fire round.
Maeve leaving Mordell for good.
Hot take. There's been some news that like she's going or something.
The actor,
yeah. Emma Mackey, yeah. And yeah, okay. Out of 10, I'm gonna say 5 purely because I have faith.
Yeah, I think there is that speculation that Emma Mackey could be leaving the show, but. She might find someone in America.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And then Otis and Ruby can get together.
And marry and settle down.
So in saying that, Otis and Ruby getting together, likelihood. Season 4.
I reckon a 7. I'm gonna call it right now. I'm gonna call game. Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Adam and Raheem getting together.
Oh, that is a hot take. I'm going to say another 7, actually.
I reckon like 7 or 8
7 or 8, it's up there.
It's very high. I think that could be on. Jakob finds out about the DNA test results that it's not his child.
God, that was a precarious situation, wasn't it? Like, it was...
That's got to be a 10.
Oh, my God. What a way to finish the fucking episode.
Poor man. He's had so much go wrong with him.
He'll find out about it, but what the results will be, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Jean will keep that hidden as well.
Yeah, as well. Yeah.
Lastly, Maeve and Ola, they have the same finger tattoos.
We thought that was really interesting, yeah.
This is like crop circles.
Yeah.
Will they get together? Out of 10.
Maeve and Ola getting together. That is a 1, but it's very interesting.
It's got to be a 0 for me.
I would leave up to like the sex education writers like anything. So I'm not counting anything out.
Yeah, for sure. If you're listening in at home, let us know what your season 4 predictions are. That is a wrap for the first ever episode of CINEMATES. Bunch of mates having drinks, talking about cinema. We have absolutely enjoyed this. Let us know what you think. Follow along on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're releasing to all the different platforms. On Instagram, you can catch us on @cinemaze_, and on YouTube, you can catch us on CINEMATES. So let us know what you think. We've absolutely loved this.
Loved it.
Please watch Sex Education Season 3 if you've spoiled it for yourself.
Yeah.
And big thanks to our sponsors at Marsden. Marsden Lager has been an absolute drop while we've been doing this podcast.
So
I've had an absolute pleasure with my mate Pat, the first guest of our show. Thanks so much for coming on, Pat. You've been an absolute treat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, mate. Honestly, it's been good to vent about season 3.
We've been waiting to vent about this for a while. So
thank you.
It's good to get it out of the air.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening in, and we'll catch you for the next episode.
Amazing.
Big thanks again to the sponsors of today's podcast, Marsden Brewhouse from Laundy Hotels. The Marsden lagers were awesome to have, really easy drinking and perfect for a bunch of mates chatting about cinema. You can grab a case from any local Celebration store or at the brewhouse itself at Marsden Park. To celebrate the launch of the CINEMATES podcast, we're also doing a special giveaway. So if you want to enter the giveaway, head over to @cinemaze_ on Instagram for more details. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of CINEMATES. If you enjoyed it, you can follow us and leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all other major platforms. Also, if you haven't already, check out our Instagram and YouTube channel for more CINEMATES content and let us know what you thought of this episode. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge Australia's first people as the traditional owners and custodians of the land and pay respect to the Cammeraygal people of the Eora Nation upon whose country CINEMATES is based. We honour the storytelling and culture of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities across Australia. Also, in the spirit of chatting with mates, remember it's always important to check in with those around you, whether it's friends, family, or colleagues. Sometimes they may be going through a hard time, and chatting with them may reassure that they aren't alone. If you or anyone you know is ever struggling, call Lifeline on 13 11 14.